Good day and welcome back. What unfolded today during the Pete Hegseth hearing was not a shouting match, not a viral soundbite, but something far more revealing. It was a quiet, disciplined confrontation between two men who once wore the same uniform, led troops into combat, and learned leadership the hard way, under fire.
Here now recognizes the gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Crow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Kane, Secretary Hegseth, and Mrs. McDonald. You're doing a great job today, Mrs. McDonald. Secretary Hegseth, we have a lot of things in common. In fact, our careers started the same way. We were both infantry officers. We were both platoon leaders. We both deployed our platoons to combat in a counterinsurgency environment. There are very few better leadership training grounds than that experience, and it's that experience that I want to transport us back into time, back to Lieutenant Hegseth and Lieutenant Crow. There are a lot of things that make a leader and that make a unit effective. Would you say that unit cohesion is important?
Unit cohesion, amongst many, is very important, yes, sir.
It's an important element. And part of that is making sure that all members of your unit felt included in that team, correct?
Far more important that every member of that unit felt capable to do the mission and united in that mission.
But that they were included and felt part of the team as well.
I wouldn't use the word inclusion, sir, but yes, they were cohering as a team, yes.
And that you reduce tension and infighting and points of tension between your platoon members so that you can focus on the mission. That was a part of the regular job.
Absolutely. That's why I've said that our diversity is our strength is the single dumbest phrase in military history.
And words are
our
important.
Unity is our strength. And
words,
so unity amongst members, despite differences of backgrounds, race, whatever that is.
And I agree with you on that.
Together on a mission.
And words, part of that is words are important and setting the tone is important, correct? When you're a leader.
All aspects of leadership, mostly leading by example.
Did you ever tell them your political affiliation?
Guidance.
Did you ever tell your platoon members your political affiliation?
We certainly discussed lots of topics, and I'm sure my political affiliation.
Did you ever ask them theirs?
No, their political affiliation was never a concern to me.
Because it's important that everybody feel included and that people weren't excluded, correct? That would be antithetical to leadership.
I'm sure my platoon contained Republicans, Democrats, and Independents, and I had no idea what their affiliation was.
Okay, that was actually my next question, so I appreciate you answering that. You led your unit in a counterinsurgency environment, and you interacted with civilians, correct?
Interacted with members of the civilian population in Iraq, sure.
Yep. And you were, in fact, a COIN instructor, a counterinsurgency instructor, correct?
In Afghanistan in 2011 and 2012, I was the senior counterinsurgency instructor.
And you signed off on a manual. There's actually a counterinsurgency manual that you signed off on and helped create. And your name's on that manual, correct?
We were a part of creating a lot of content at the COIN Academy, yes.
Do you remember this portion of the manual? It says, if you've killed two innocents, you've set yourself back more than you've moved forward. Do you still agree with that?
I would have to take a look at the manual, but obviously no one in warfare is seeking to kill innocents.
Okay. Because it's important to show why we're different from the enemy. Because we're not the enemy, right? We're different from our adversary. Would you agree with that? We have different morals and different values.
We are not the enemy, sir.
We have different morals and we have different values than the enemy.
We have a code, a uniform code of military justice.
So the answer to that is yes.
Our formations that
you're not trying to compare us to Al-Qaeda and ISIS, are you? We're different.
I know the code of the United States military and army that I signed up for.
You can't tell me whether we're different?
Right hand.
You're not willing to say we're
different? Of
different?
course we're different.
Okay, thank you.
It's absurd.
That's why I'm trying to reconcile the fact that we learned many of the same lessons as platoon leaders about unit cohesion, making sure that people were included, that we didn't ask people's political affiliation, that we interacted respectfully with civilian populations, that what a leader says matters, that the tone you set matters, that we are not the enemy, that we are different from them, we lead differently, we have different morals. How can I reconcile that experience and those lessons learned from Lieutenant Hegseth to now Secretary Hegseth, where you say things like what you just saw here, making us equivalent on the same standards as our adversaries? doing the same things that ISIS and Al-Qaeda would do. How can you possibly reconcile that? I can't. And just the other day down at Fort Bragg in our beloved 82nd Airborne Division, sitting there while we politicize the military and pull our paratroopers into politics, booing elected officials, booing politicians with whom you disagree. It's antithetical to our values, and you, sir,
Gentlemen,
have changed.
time's expired. Chair, and I recognize the gentleman.
Before we go any further, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you do not miss our in-depth coverage and analysis of hearings like this one. Representative Jason Crow of Colorado opened his questioning by doing something unusual in Washington. He removed politics from the room and replaced it with shared experience. Infantry officers, platoon leaders, counterinsurgency deployments. This was not theory, this was lived reality. Crow intentionally took the audience back in time, back to 2 lieutenants responsible for the lives of young soldiers and the trust of civilian populations in war zones. And that framing mattered because Crow was not just asking questions, he was testing consistency. He began with unit cohesion, a concept every combat leader understands instinctively. Cohesion is not about slogans or ideology, it is about trust, discipline, and the ability to function as one under extreme stress. Hegseth agreed that cohesion is critical, but the tension emerged when the word inclusion entered the conversation. Hegseth rejected the term, even while describing the very principles inclusion represents: soldiers feeling part of the team, trusted, capable, united around the mission. Crow did not argue semantics. Instead, he let the contradictions sit in the open. Words matter, especially in leadership. Leaders set tone, whether they intend to or not, and in the military, tone can mean the difference between discipline and fracture. Subscribe now if you want clear, grounded breakdowns of these moments that often get lost in political noise. Crow then moved into something even more sensitive: political neutrality inside the ranks. He asked a simple question: did you ever tell your platoon your political affiliation? Did you ever ask theirs? Hegseth ultimately acknowledged what most professional officers understand instinctively: politics do not belong in combat units, not because soldiers lack opinions, but because unity collapses when ideology enters the chain of command. This exchange revealed an important lesson for viewers at home. The military is one of the last institutions in America where political identity is deliberately suppressed in favor of collective mission. That is not accidental. It is learned through decades of experience, mistakes, and bloodshed. Crow was reminding the room that leadership means restraint, not just conviction. Then the conversation turned outward, toward civilians and counterinsurgency. This is where the hearing shifted from abstract leadership to moral responsibility. Crow referenced a counterinsurgency manual Hegseth helped create, a line that states, "Killing innocents sets the mission back rather than advancing it." This is not philosophical, it is strategic reality. In counterinsurgency, legitimacy is the battlefield. Hegseth hesitated. He deflected toward intent, saying no one seeks to kill innocents. That is true, but incomplete. Crow pressed further, emphasizing that the difference between American forces and terrorist organizations lies in values, accountability, and restraint. The Uniform Code of Military Justice exists precisely because moral conduct is not optional. This moment mattered because it exposed a deeper tension. Can a leader fully embrace the moral framework of warfare while publicly rejecting the language that enforces it? Can unity exist without acknowledging difference? Can strength exist without discipline of words? Subscribe to the channel if you want continued analysis that goes beyond clips and digs into what these exchanges actually mean. Crow was not accusing Hegseth of misconduct. He was doing something more consequential. He was holding up a mirror. You learned these lessons. You taught these lessons. You signed your name to these principles. Are you still willing to stand by them now, when the audience is political rather than military? The takeaway for viewers is simple but powerful. Leadership is not defined by what you say when everyone agrees with you. It is defined by what you preserve when disagreement is loud, polarized, and profitable. The military teaches unity not as a slogan, but as a survival mechanism. When those lessons collide with politics, the consequences ripple far beyond a hearing room. If you found this breakdown informative and want more reporting that explains the why behind the headlines, subscribe now and stay with us. We will continue to bring you clear, human-centered analysis of the moments shaping leadership, accountability, and power in America.